If you really think about it for a second, have you noticed that the way you show up just seems to happen automatically? Because I have. Like, that the way we're showing up is not conscious choice. Stay with me, bear with me here for a second. But just living inside of the role that we've been living inside of for however long we've been living inside of it. No, Sarah, I make conscious choices every day. I'm intentional. I make the things in my life happen because I'm the master of my fate. 1000%, sister. 1000%, my guy. Like 100%. We are making conscious choices to better ourselves, which is why we are in the self improvement space in the first place, which is why you look up videos like this, all of the things, because we want to make better choices for ourselves and we want to do so consciously. But hear me out. Something that blew my mind recently is thinking about the roles that we inherited, not the ones we necessarily chose, that through the situations and the experiences that we've had in our lives and our perception on those experiences, or our perception that became our perception because it was somebody else's perception and we perceived that perception as right. You follow me? I know I'm saying a lot, but that is who we're showing up as, not as our continuous, ever evolving selves. Because as we move through our lives, every single day, every moment of every day, we're continuously gaining new insights about ourselves, about the world, about how we want to navigate the world, about the people in our lives. We develop new ideas and have new perspectives of how we want to show up in the world through the constant intake of information that we're consuming every single day. Even if you're just sitting in your house doing nothing but thinking, you come up with new ways to live your life, better ways to live your life. So we're constantly changing, we're constantly growing, we're constantly evolving. Yet our roles always stay the same. You continue to show up in the same role with your friends that you've always showed up as. You're always that same character. You always play the same part. You say the same things. You behave in the same ways. You show up at work in that same or different, but in a same fashion. Like you show up at work filling in the role that people expect you to show up in. Same for your family. Same for a lot of the time what you're navigating on your own. Even as you grow and take on new perceptions and new mindsets, you still keep showing up in the same exact way. You still keep using the fact that you're anxious as a crutch to get you through social situations and make excuses for you being socially awkward, no matter how bad you don't want to be and how many realizations you've had about confidence and how much you've learned about it. You still keep showing up the same way because it's a habit that you've developed. No matter how much you've learned on how to be more organized for yourself and what systems work best for you, you still continue to show up with a chaotic type B mentality because that's how you've always showed up and that's your habit. No matter how much you want to make your physical wellness a part of your everyday life and go to the gym and eat well and drink water and sleep 8 hours a night, you still find yourself saying yes to other things and prioritizing that over the gym and caving when your friends offer a giant pizza and you want to partake and eat that because it's uncomfortable to make a change and to say no. You've always identified as a dehydrated person, and so you never bring your water bottle with you and you make jokes about how dehydrated you are, and you love to stay up all hours of the night watching Love is Blind, and you're not sleeping for 8 hours because you continue to identify as a night owl. It all comes back to what your habits are continuing to identify you as, even though you are changing and evolving and growing and gaining new mindsets. And the scariest part is we don't even realize we're doing it. This episode is for my Wellish besties who want so badly to be in control of their life and have all of the ideas of how to do that racking their mind constantly, but they still feel like they are living life on a whim. Like you're just reacting to your moods every day or to what's going on every day and can't stay consistent with the identity that you truly want inside of you and instead keep caving to this old person that you don't want to be anymore. When you spend so much time living in a role that you inherited, your decisions aren't coming from who you currently are. They're coming from who you learned you need it to be in order to be accepted and loved and safe in the world. Like with society, with other people in your life that expect you to show up these certain ways, but safe with yourself too, because it's predictable and you know what the outcome is. And you won't be disappointed if you show up differently and you don't get the results that you want. So, today we're talking about the difference between the roles that we inherited and the identities that we genuinely, consciously choose for ourselves. Welcome to Wellish. This is the corner of the self-improvement world that allows you to be imperfect and still feel good enough. So if anything in this episode resonates with you, I would really appreciate you rating and reviewing the show. It really helps get the episodes out to more like-minded listeners like you and I that need to live a little bit more wellishly. And if you are somebody that loves self-improvement and wants to incorporate it into their lifestyle, but doesn't want the pressure to be perfect all of the time, you're gonna want to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. You guys know my number one thing is awareness. I think awareness is the most important part of anything self-improvement and truly propels you so much farther into the change that you want to make simply with the awareness and keeping it at the forefront of your mind. So let's start by talking about what inherited roles are, because if you're aware of what they are, it'll be so much easier to recognize how you're showing up in these inherited roles compared to ones that you're consciously choosing. The biggest thing to know is that roles are survival strategies. We developed them when we were in environments with people or in certain situations that we didn't feel we were in control of the outcome or what was happening or people's perception of us or if we were liked or not liked. We felt some lack of safety somewhere, whether it was rejection, abandonment, judgment, whatever. You didn't feel in control of the situation. And so you took on these roles in order to create a sense of safety in order to survive. So, how exactly does that happen? I think a lot of it is obviously childhood. I mean, what else is new? How many times can we hear that? Of course, it comes from our childhood. But I think what's interesting to think about when it comes to our child brain is that it was our child brain perceiving these things. So this isn't something that your adult brain might think is scary or a problem, or now that you've had 20 years to sit with it, you're like, I mean, it really wasn't that big of a deal. But the fact that you remember it, whatever that is a sign that it's something that your child brain perceived as unsafe. Like there's a reason that sticks in your mind. We don't remember 90% of things. It's so sad to say, like, I don't remember teachers' names, which is crazy because I always like thought I would be the person that would remember every single teacher I ever had's name, but I don't, we get rid of so much information. And so those little memories from when we were kids that stick out to us in our brain are there for a reason. There is some sort of significance to those things. So even if it's not something that your adult brain today perceives as a time that was unsafe for you, it's possible that your childhood brain did perceive it that way. And once that happens, the automatic response is to take on whatever role is going to protect us. So like the good kid role. The teacher's gonna like you. You're not gonna get in trouble. Your parents aren't gonna be upset with you as long as you follow the rules and you do everything right and you encourage other people to do the same thing because you know that that will keep other people safe. And it's your little sweet baby angel kid brain's default to do everything right, because if you do everything right, logically, it makes sense that you won't get anything wrong and wrong things won't happen. You'll stay safe. But sometimes people take on the opposite role and they lean into more of a troublemaker role. I mean, maybe you were that kid, or you can picture that kid in your class that was the screwball, that was the kid that always had to cause a problem, and everybody expected that from that kid. Whether that kid shows up that way because they learned that they got attention when they showed up that way and they weren't receiving it any other way, so that made them feel safe, or it made them feel safe because people expected that behavior from them, and so they felt unsafe showing up in a good way because it was almost like you could be judged or you were acting out of character. It was too vulnerable to show up a different way. Some kids take on the peacekeeper role, like I kind of mentioned that earlier with the good kid role, that like you're trying to enforce other people to do everything right. Or, I can picture like the mom friends when we were in elementary school that just like wanted everybody to get along, and they would like, there'd be the two groups on the opposite sides of the playground, and like they would be like beefing, right? And the peacekeeper kid would be like the mediator, would pass the messages back and forth, or would like get the two people to like come to a consensus together, or that they just did anything that they could to reduce conflict amongst groups, amongst friends. Or of course, there's like the invisible one, the dorkier one, the people that aren't as like cool and popular when you're a kid, and that you don't feel that you're allowed to leave that role, that that's your place. You stay in that invisible role throughout your entire childhood. Most of the time, when you start out as this invisible role, you don't see that kid turn around and become the football all-star popular homecoming king type of character, you continue in that role no matter how much you develop individually and realize like how fucking stupid all of these people and their social ladder really is. I mean, there's just so many of them, and you think about it just by moving around the types of groups that you remember from school. I mean, there were the smart kids, and there were the awkward kids, and there were the funny kids. Like, there's just all of these roles that we're placed in as we grow up. And that is how our brain is developing within the confines of these roles. And then we grow up with these identities absorbed inside of us, and these habits that are created based on these roles, and these set in stone perceptions of how we have to show up. And a lot of the time, we do experience a break in those roles that we experienced from childhood, from school, when we are around new people, when you go to college or you go to work and you're not around those same fart heads every single day anymore. But there are some lingering pieces that you still experience from that being the way that you operated from the time you were 5 years old. And then we navigate our adult friendships or our relationships with similar patterns. Like the peacekeeper kid might be the one that turns into the fixer, that's how they're going to keep the peace, is making sure that or the good kid, making sure that they're helping other people experience life better, that they want to teach them that they don't have to be so dysfunctional. And so they can show them and fix them so they don't have to live like that anymore and take on that mediating fix it role. Or maybe you take on the role of being like the chill one, you're cool. You're not worried about things. Yeah, you can go hang out with that girl and not give me your phone password. I'm not like other girls. I'm not going to like get weird about it. Like chill. I'm cool. And whole time it's because you learned that if you got upset about things or reacted to things, that made you uncool, and that made you bitchy, and it made you hyper, and it made you needy, and it made you all of these rejecting things. Maybe you get trapped in this achievement mentality. And so you feel like if you could only try harder, then you'll get the things that you want because you're programmed from childhood that if you work harder, you'll get good grades. If you work harder, you'll get into the sport that you wanted to be in. If you work harder, you could be around the friends you wanted to be around. If you work harder, you can get your parents' approval, your teacher's approval. You learn that pattern and then you show up in your adult life that way. Roles are survival strategies we learned in environments that we did not feel in control. That's not the only lack of control, though. We didn't choose our parents. We didn't choose the schools that we went to. We didn't choose the environments that we were exposed to. We didn't choose how people first reacted to us when we showed up as ourselves and got some strange reaction from some kid that has a different perception on life and had different environments that they didn't choose and couldn't control. And so now they have different perceptions that they're putting onto us. But all of these things have shaped the identity that we have learned to perform. Sometimes I feel like the roles we take on, I can't even put a name to. I can just picture it. Like I can just feel the vibe of the role that I played, that I perceived other people perceived me as. And there are roles that I can name. Like, I know I played like the good girl role. I know I played like the one who has to try hard in order to get things right, sort of a role. But there's just this like essence that I can feel in my body of the role that I know I played, but I just don't have words for it. I would love to hear what role you guys think you were cast into. Tell me in the comments because maybe if we can kind of define our own roles, it would help other people define how they show up, what roles they've cast themselves into, so that we can get a better idea of the identity that we're showing up in today. And write it down in the comments for your own knowledge, because once you realize what role you've inherited, you finally get the opportunity to choose something different and to consciously choose how you want to show up in the world. One of the biggest misconceptions that so many of us get wrapped up in is that this is just who we are. Our identity is fixed. We think that there's nothing we can do. I mean, we know we can take on new habits and new skills. And so I'm going to try to pile new things into my life in order to get me closer to an identity that I feel like I want to align with more, that would be more of my dream version of myself that I saw play out on the internet and that looks pretty. And so I want to try that too. But then we always revert back to our old habits and I just can't seem to make the change and this must just be who I am. But that's not true. Identity can change. Identity is fluid. Identity is not fixed. And I think that we feel like it is because we always hear like, just be yourself, be who you are, which I think at its core is true. But I also think who you are always changes. And just being yourself is being who you feel you are today and then being who you feel you are tomorrow and allowing that fluidity, allowing you to ask yourself every single day, who am I today and how can I show up as that person in the most authentic way I can? I default to the identity of being the chill person, the low maintenance person. And that came from my limiting belief that if I share things about myself or if I tell people my problems, if I ask for help, if I show that I'm not okay, if I express my emotions that other people might not have the capacity for that, I might feel like a burden to them. They might perceive me as high maintenance. I might be disliked or judged for it. I'm opening myself up for them to have a perception of me that I might feel is incorrect. And so it's easier to be chill and understanding and go with the flow and let people show up however they want to show up, and that I will adapt to what they want to keep them happy and keep me out of their mind. What identity do you default to? Oh, I'm just anxious. Oh, I'm always awkward. Oh, I always mess things up. Oh, I'm the responsible one. I'm the one that gives advice. I'm the one that always has the answers. What is it and why? Why is that your default mode? What do you think will happen if you don't default to that role? And the second step is deciding who the fuck you want to be. What kind of person is that? And how do they show up? I want to be a person that's physically active. So, how does a person that's physically active show up? Do they take the elevator or do they take the stairs? Do they go to the gym regularly or do they sit on their couch and eat donuts? Do they eat the whole package of Oreos or do they just grab two and leave the package in the cabinet? Do they constantly Uber Eats Taco Bell every night or are they going to the grocery store regularly? Are they sucking down regular pop like it's nobody's business? Or are you drinking water regularly and maybe getting a diet soda? Do they stay up all night watching Bridgerton? Or do they make sure to just turn the TV off, put on a nice relaxing sound, and go to sleep when they said they were gonna fall asleep? And if you notice, I'm not telling you to go to the gym, eat healthy, drink water, and sleep well. While those things are all what I said, I'm telling you how to identify as a person that shows up as the thing that you want to be. That you're not having the whole container of Oreos, you're only grabbing two. You're still having them. You're still drinking the pop, you're just choosing diet and also drinking water. You're still watching Bridgerton, but you're turning it off at a decent hour and going to sleep. You don't have to be at the gym 6 days a week, but you're making sure to maybe go on a walk during the day or go to the gym 3 to 4 days a week. Maybe you don't feel like going to the gym or you don't have time. Like I'm doing that today. I don't have time to go to the gym today, but I know that I want to be a person that has a healthy lifestyle physically. And so I bought a pair. Well, actually, I didn't buy them. My dad bought them for me for Christmas, but I acquired a set of dumbbells that are adjustable that I keep in my house, and they're big and they're heavy. They go up to 50 pounds each, and I can get a full real dumbbell workout at home if I don't have time for the gym. And that is good enough for me, that I'm making sure that I'm incorporating that into my life however I can fit it into that day. What kind of person do you want to be? I want to be a confident person. I'm sick of being socially awkward. I want to show up confidently at social events and I want to draw the room's attention when I walk in. What does a confident person that draws the room's attention do? Who is that person? What actions do they take? They probably shower every day. Just throwing that out there. They probably brush their teeth and wash their face regularly. They probably do their makeup. Just throwing it out there. You don't have to do your makeup if that's not your thing. Don't worry about it. For my wellish men, obviously, like maybe like, a little gel. Again, if that's not your thing, not a big deal. But maybe like going to the barber and having them do a nice haircut for you instead of just like letting your hair grow out and never using conditioner. They put intention into the way that they're dressing and are dressing mindfully and thoughtfully about who the person that they want to be dresses as. They make eye contact with people. And if they can't do that yet, they think about making eye contact with people. They learn how to have conversation and make the effort to make a little bit of conversation and maybe retreat back to their corner and step away, go into the bathroom, regroup, and then go out and try again. They know that a confident person can screw up and be socially awkward, and that doesn't make them not confident because they know that confidence means believing in themselves and loving themselves and supporting themselves and giving themselves grace even when they screw up. What kind of person do you want to be? Maybe you've been the people pleaser for so long and you want to be a person that communicates honestly. So how does a person that communicates honestly show up? They say how they feel. They get to know their own opinions. They ask themselves what they like and what they don't like, and they get really clear on who they are so that they can communicate that out in the world. So they know their values, they know their morals, they know the behavior that they will and will not tolerate, and they can stand by those things when they are put in situations that those ideas are in question. What kind of person do you want to be? Have you been the overachiever? Maybe you want to be a person that doesn't put so much energy constantly in everything that you do and barely getting any results, and you're trying so hard to get all of it right all of the time. And instead, you just want to be a person that creates meaningful work. And if that doesn't mean you get it perfect every single time, then it means you don't get it perfect every single time. But at least you're creating meaningful work. At least you're caring for yourself. At least you're looking inward and doing what's best for you every single day, and then turning around and creating meaningful quality work because you're pouring energy into yourself instead of focusing on quantity over quality. Identity is not something you discover. People think, I need to find my purpose. What is my meaning in life? Who's the kind of person that I'm going to be? It's not a discovery. It's not packing habits on habits on habits and then eventually like transforming into this person. You're not going to cross this threshold and become this person. It's something you decide. It's identity is something you choose consciously. And you consciously choose that identity every day, every moment, every opportunity that you have to show up in that way. But it's not as easy as just making the decision, you know? Like if I could sit here and say, oh, I choose to be a person that takes care of her physical wellness and I am so and show up that way every single day, my tracker for taking care of my physical wellness that I've been using for the last 2 months would be all green, and it's not. A lot of it is red. And yet I still identify as a person that does that because even though a lot of it's red, I'm still trying every single day. I'm still doing something off of that list most days. It's still at the forefront of my mind. I'm still asking myself the questions of how a person that takes care of their physical wellness would show up, and doing so as often as possible and trying to build better habits and incorporate it into my life more and more. And that's this next important part is the integration process. And it is messy and it is gradual. You cannot just decide to be this new person and then be disciplined and motivated enough to make it happen. Like they tell you, you just have to grind. You just have to set your mind to it and go after it. And if you're not doing that, you're wasting your time. You're wasting your life. You're lazy. You're weak-minded. You can't get it done. Fuck that mentality. Identity change happens through behavior repetition, and you are not going to perfectly repeat behaviors. You are not a machine. Your brain needs evidence to start identifying as the new thing. And so it is your job to collect it and not to focus on all of the times in your efforts to collect it that you fucked it up, but to focus on just simply on the evidence that you are collecting. Every time you act like that person, even in small ways. I'm trying to drink 3 liters of water a day. I only got half of that done yesterday, but the 2 days before that, I drank no water. And so I collected that evidence. I said to myself, I was able to drink those 3 bottles of water. Even though it wasn't 6, I still intentionally made sure that happened. Even when I didn't want to, I had a moment that I stared at the water bottle and was like, I don't feel like drinking that. But I said to myself, this is something I said I wanted to do. So drink the fucking water bottle. It's making decisions that are aligned with the identity that you want to be, and then reinforcing it through your lived experience. Like if your chosen identity is someone that trusts themselves, that's something I have a hard time with is self-trust. So to say I trust myself and identify as that seems like, no, I don't. But I'm continuing to identify with the inherited role that I'm someone who doesn't trust myself because I've experienced things in my life that have caused me to not trust me. And I continue to navigate my life from that lens unless I make another choice. And I choose to be somebody that trusts themselves. And I have to make that choice first, and then I can start to collect the evidence. What does a person who trusts themselves do? Last night, I spiraled. Last night, I had a little crying moment, okay? But I trust myself to navigate that well. I had to trust myself that I would feel through my feelings and trust myself that I'm doing good and trust myself that I'm doing my best. And I have to make that choice instead of falling into the spiral and saying, see, here's all of the reasons that I suck and I don't have the life that I want and I don't know why I'm always getting everything wrong and I just want to feel good enough and I just want to fix it and I just want to be better. Why am I broken? What's wrong with me? Why am I even worried about it? Instead of doing that, trusting myself, making the conscious choices of someone who trusts themselves, what would that person do? That person would make decisions without asking for anybody's approval, without needing validation from anybody else. A person that trusts themselves honors their boundaries. A person that trusts themselves listens to their intuition. I mean, even like when I was packing to go to Des Moines last weekend, I made sure to listen to my intuition. My intuition told me to bring my book, even though I knew I wasn't going to read it. It told me to bring it. So I just threw it in the suitcase, because so many times have I not listened to my intuition, and then I got somewhere and I felt like, oh, fuck, I should have brought this one thing. That's the worst feeling. I brought 2 pairs of basically the same pair of boots because I didn't know if I wanted a pointed toe or a rounded toe. And I didn't touch the pointed toe ones. I didn't even look at them, but I had them. Maybe my bag was heavier, maybe I overpacked, but I was fucking prepared because I listened to my intuition. You do not become the version of yourself, that dream version that you're picturing inside of your head, overnight. You become that person through small proof that you collect over time, through the conscious choice to be a certain identity, and then go out into the world and intentionally collect the evidence for that identity. And when you do that, you will gain such a strong sense of value that everything you do, you will be so sure of yourself. You will be so sure of who you are and proud of who you are and proud of the life that you're creating. You will gain clarity and direction and agency, and you will feel good. Not every single day, not all of the time, not permanently, forever. You will always experience emotions, good and bad. But the way you navigate those negative emotions, you'll have that agency over you and how you show up in the world. And instead of just reacting to everything in your life, you are able to start creating it in a way that you feel good about. What role is it that you've been playing your entire life and you never actually chose it? And who would you be if you let yourself make a new choice? If you gave yourself permission to identify as someone different, to not show up the way that other people expect you to not cave to the habits that you know keep you safe, but they don't keep you happy. That's it for today's episode. Keep your eyes peeled on Wellish's Instagram. We've got Confessions of a Wellish Listener coming up this Friday. You guys have been submitting all of your confessions, and I've got a couple more question boxes for you today and tomorrow for you to go ahead and submit even more and be featured on the show on Friday. So make sure to keep an eye out for that. And then next week, we are diving even deeper into identity and self-concept integration. So it's not something you're going to want to miss. This is all about how to actually become that person that you're picturing inside of your head. I love and believe in you all endlessly, and I know that you are doing everything you can to be the best version of yourself every day, but remember to take a moment and know that you already are so incredible and doing so amazing, and I know it's true because you sat here and listened to this and want to make differences in your life, but you want to do it from a place of presence and peace and kindness inside of who you are right now. So keep up the good work. I love you, and I will talk to you on Friday. Bye.